The big risk that people have put to me in the Conservative Party is, do people vote for losers, essentially? So it is a pitch which is predicated on the Tories heading for defeat, that they're going to lose. And as a result, it's not necessarily an attractive, positive pitch. And I think that's the big challenge of it, that it doesn't sound like you're going for a winning start. And when you combine that with what Grant Shapps did on Times Radio yesterday, where he effectively said, we're unlikely to win it, which is still, I think, an extraordinary moment. I've never seen anything like that in an election campaign. You've got a quite difficult pitch, but the Tories have decided they've got no choice. They've got to go hard on it, and they've got to go very fast on it because things are not moving. And I think it is more of a reflection of how badly it's going for the Conservatives that they need to resort to this than it is anything else.
The front of the Times this morning, a warning by the Conservatives of a generation of socialism. And Mark Spencer, very much on message, chimed in on Times Radio this morning, threatening us with an actual number of years for that generation of socialism. It'd be 20 years of socialism if the nation gives Labour a big majority. Now, most mornings around this time, we speak to Stephen Swinford. He's a political editor of the Times. Who better to inform us on where the campaigns are moving as we approach polling day on the 4th of July. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning.
I mean, these are just it's the definition of the stages of Project Fear, isn't it? First of all, it's watch out, it's going to be a supermajority. And now it's not about a majority, just about a majority. It's about the length of time that Labour could be in for. Does it work, though, saying 20 years when a lot of people keep thinking, well, hang on a minute, we've just had 14 years of you?
I think there's a big risk to it. And I think the big risk that people have put to me in the Conservative Party is, do people vote for losers, essentially? So it is a pitch which is predicated on the Tories heading for defeat, that they're going to lose. And as a result, it's not necessarily an attractive, positive pitch. And I think that's the big challenge of it, that it doesn't sound like you're going for a winning start. And when you combine that with what Grant Shapps did on Times Radio yesterday, where he effectively said, we're unlikely to win it, which is still, I think, an extraordinary moment. I've never seen anything like that in an election campaign. You've got a quite difficult pitch, but the Tories have decided they've got no choice. They've got to go hard on it, and they've got to go very fast on it because things are not moving. And I think it is more of a reflection of how badly it's going for the Conservatives that they need to resort to this than it is anything else.
I mean, it feels that way to us. It feels strange and kind of feverish and kind of very honest, and one person saying X and one person saying Y. But I don't know if you heard, we just had William Hague on, and he said, well, actually, I don't think it is that unusual for people to say those kind of things, to have to be pointing in two perhaps slightly contradictory directions. Is it, or are we overstating it?
No, it is very unusual. I mean, this is warning that Labour is on course for a supermajority. It's not unusual to warn that a Labour government would do this if you're a Conservative, or they would do that, or they would kind of raise tactics. That's not unusual. I think what is unusual is they are basically warning of a generation out of power. They are implicitly saying that Labour could be on course for such a big victory here, that they're there for 2 decades plus. And why that's interesting is because that does reflect the underlying polls at the moment. It's not coming from nowhere. It's not a made up threat. This is not expectation management. Literally, there are polls showing us that the Tories are on for decimation, and they're kind of playing into that. But there is a grain of truth in what is coming, I think.
Now, Boris Johnson, let's deal with this very quickly. There were whisperings that he was going to do something in the campaign. You know, we're 16 days away from polling day, and he's now appeared, but not appeared on any, on the stump. He's not appeared on any doorsteps. It's letters. Explain to us about the letters, and also a couple of videos for certain people standing in constituencies.
So he's doing videos and letters that are going out to voters for people that are supportive of him. These are Boris allies. They're the people that are asking for his help and his support. And they're they're very Boris Johnson videos. They're quite shambolic. They're not necessarily the most smooth or high produced things. I think the bigger question is, will he hit the campaign trail? And at the moment, he's not planning to this week. He won't be, I don't think, next week. There's a chance he's going to do it in the final week. He's said to be 50-50 on that at the moment as to whether he does that and whether he actually goes out on the trail. It's good of him, but I guess what he's weighing up is does he benefit from this, right? If you're Boris Johnson, you still want to lead the Conservative Party. Do you want anything to do with this campaign and go out on the stump, or is it actually more beneficial for you to completely sit it out and then kind of do something afterwards? Knowing Boris Johnson a bit, I suspect he will go out on the campaign trail. He's not going to be able to resist the limelight, but certainly not anytime soon, and it will certainly be too late to make any significant difference by then, I would have thought.
A quick word on Labour. We've had a lot of people getting in touch with us this morning saying, stop trying to get Labour to commit to this tax rise or this tax, whatever it might be. We had Jonathan Reynolds on, and he was saying, so instead of kind of using a form of words, there's nothing in the manifesto that requires additional tax rises. They have said, we're going to grow the economy and make everything so good and so nice that we won't need to put up these tax rises. Kezia Dugdale, I think, just put it very beautifully. She said that Labour are so close to power, they were within touching distance. They don't want to put everything out on display, and it's pretty obvious that they have to have some wriggle room. I mean, does that kind of satisfy people? Do you think, the people who do have questions about Labour and tax?
Yeah, I think it probably for now does, but it doesn't mean they don't have significant questions. And I think that we and the media more broadly are right to scrutinise that, because Labour is likely to be in power very soon. And if we end up with a very different agenda than the one we've seen in the run up to the election, then we should be asking the questions around that and trying to get to it. Because look, the thing about Keir Starmer is lots of people say he's dull, lots of people say he's boring. Actually, if you look at what he's saying and what he's doing, he's got this incredibly ambitious bid to make Britain the kind of fastest growing country in the G7 group of developed nations. And that is not an easy thing to do. He is betting the house on growth. If he doesn't get the growth that he's talking about, and if that doesn't happen, and it's really hard to do, no, the government of the past 14 years has basically failed to achieve that. So if he doesn't achieve that, then tax rises could come into it, right? Things like capital gains tax, council tax could suddenly come into it, because he's going to need to balance the books, and they have stuck by some very challenging fiscal rules that they are going to maintain, which could prove to effectively be a straitjacket in a Labour government. So if he's going to stick to his rules, then he's going to probably need to raise money if he can't get growth going.
Yeah. Stephen, thank you very much. That's Stephen Swinford, who's the political editor of The Times. If you want more insight from Stephen and his team at The Times, probably best to subscribe. There's a good deal on right now. You can get your first 4 months for only £1, which, by the way, works out at less than a penny a day. We've fully costed that plan, haven't we? To get the offer, just head to the Times website or app and look for the links to subscribe.